What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel. Sports Channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Guys, I apologize for my absence. I just haven't felt well over the last few days. But I'm back, y'all. I'm back. It's week one. Let's get ready for the season, guys. Today's topic, y'all, we're going to talk about adjusted games lost, AGL. For some of y'all that may have joined the channel recently, you guys might not be used to this type of content, but this is what I'm known for, guys. I go deep into analytics and things like that. Just stick through with me, hear me out, see what I'm going to present to you guys. At the very minimal, it's a pretty interesting topic when you really look at the numbers and how it affects teams. So today, in layman's terms, guys, what we're talking about, whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles can stay healthy, and what I think is one of the biggest keys to success for the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles, which is keeping guys healthy in games. All right, y'all, let's get it. Adjusted games lost. Adjusted games lost comes from Football Outsiders, okay? It is a metric used by Football Outsiders to basically where they scour or they go through every team's injury report throughout the season, and they assign a numeric value to certain declarations on the injury report to basically compare and contrast teams, guys, all right? So simply put, let's say a guy gets injured reserved or put on the PUP list or is ruled out. Well, each game, that's a 1 designation. They get a 1 against that AGL. They're just the games lost, okay? If a guy's listed as questionable, they get a .27. The reason why is that, on average, 27% of players who are listed as questionable do not play on game day. So I understand, guys, that averages don't always tell a story because some teams can be affected differently and can be far above an average on something like that, especially when it comes to questionable football players. Some teams are far more honest than other teams are about designating injuries. I get it. I definitely get it, guys, but nonetheless, this is still a very good database. It's still one of the best out there, all right? So, AGL 2020 season, what did we learn? Let's talk about the top 10 most injured teams in the NFL, all right? So, the 10 most injured teams in the NFL last year. The most injured team in the NFL last year was the San Francisco 49ers. Second most injured team was Philadelphia. Third most injured team was Dallas. The fourth most was New York, the Jets. The fifth most was the Chargers. Sixth most was the Washington football team. The seventh most was the Seattle Seahawks. The eighth most was the Cincinnati Bengals. Sorry, guys. The ninth most was the Denver Broncos. And the 10th most was the New York Giants. Number one thing I noticed right off the bat, guys, from my NFC East guys that are maybe not just Eagle fans, but you guys are tuning in from the NFC East, you probably noticed right off the jump, guys, all 4 NFC East teams are in the top 10 in terms of the most injured teams. So when they call us the NFC least, I think we're going to be a lot better this year, guys. I think we suffered injury as a division of far more than the rest of the NFL world. So I do think you're going to see a vast improvement. I do think that you'll see the NFC East is going to be much more competitive against other divisions. I think there's going to be a drastic change there just based upon guys being healthy. Also want to talk about is look at those top 3 teams, guys. The San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys. Those 3 teams have really good rosters. They have really good NFL rosters that were beat up and injured. Dallas lost its starting quarterback. Philadelphia went through 14 line changes. San Francisco nearly lost everybody on the freaking team. I'm telling you guys, I think those 3 teams are going to be far better than people think. I'm not a Dallas fan, guys. I hate to say that about Dallas, but it's just being truthful. You're going to return a lot of players. Just like the Eagles are going to return a lot of players, just like the 49ers are going to return a lot of players. I think these are one of those stories you're going to see where teams that weren't so good the year prior are going to be pretty good in the subsequent year. So that's one of the first things I also notice about this list. Now let's talk about the 10 most healthiest teams, the 10 teams that had the most health during the 2020 season, and you'll see a very common thread real quickly. Number 1, most healthiest team in the NFL last year, the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 2, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 3, the New Orleans Saints. Number 4, the Buffalo Bills. Number 5, the Los Angeles Rams. Number 6, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 7, the Miami Dolphins. Number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 9, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 10, the Green Bay Packers. First thing I noticed here is you got all 4 teams that were in the AFC and NFC Championship game inside the top 10 for healthy teams. Green Bay, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Buffalo. Stands out to me right from the jump. The other thing I noticed is just the amount of playoff teams. In addition to those 4 teams, you got, I believe New Orleans was a playoff team. I believe the Rams were a playoff team. Pittsburgh was a playoff team. I believe Baltimore was a playoff team. They were a playoff team. So, I mean, right away, the only teams I see that weren't playoff teams were Miami and Atlanta. Atlanta clearly lacks talent on the roster. Let's just be honest, guys. You can't be that healthy and still be that bad unless you had an issue with talent. And then you got the Dolphins, who were one of the most improved teams last year in 2020. So, relative health, relative improvement, even though they didn't make the playoffs. At least I don't think the Dolphins made the playoffs. Pretty sure they missed. So, you can see right quick just how these stories lay out, right? And I get there's complexity, guys, because timing of injuries matter, right? Just because teams made the playoffs doesn't mean injuries didn't affect them, right? Case in point would be Pittsburgh, who was really good throughout most of 2020. Towards the back end stretch of the league year, they started having those injuries. You got an older quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. They just couldn't hold up throughout the course of the year. And all of a sudden, a really good football team that does make the playoffs is dramatically impacted by injuries, guys. I understand that point. I'm not disagreeing with it. I also understand that there's some nuance to things like certain position values, receiving injuries should be weighted differently than others. I mean, losing your quarterback's a big deal. Losing your left tackle is a huge deal, right? I mean, there's just differences and that kind of stuff. Linebacker's an important position in the NFL. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not quite the same as losing your left tackle or your quarterback, losing your center. I mean, those positions, they're going to hurt you a lot more, right? So there's all kinds of complexity here. The other complex issue I'd bring up, guys, is the fact that illness, because of the worldwide pandemic that occurred, also affected things. You can see things like Green Bay, although it was in terms of physical health, it didn't lose a lot of guys to physical ailments during the year. So Green Bay was the 10th most healthiest team in that aspect, but it ranked 28th when it came to illness related to the worldwide pandemic. So obviously that's a really high number. So there's a little skew there, right? And then you get teams that got bit twice, like Denver. Denver was the 24th most injured team, or I'm sorry, they were the 9th most injured team. My bad, guys. 9th most injured team in the NFL last year in terms of physical injuries, but they were also the 3rd highest team to suffer from illness, as they ranked 30th. That's double bit. The Giants, they were the 10th most injured team in the NFL last year, and they were also the 2nd highest team to suffer from illness. Double bit. They got bit twice there, guys. And then you got teams that, look, they were injured a lot, but at least they didn't suffer from illness. A good example of that would be Philly, which ranked 6th. Dallas ranked 6th. The Chargers ranked 6th. So Philly was 31st in terms of physical ailment. Dallas was 30th in terms of the physical. The Chargers were 28th, so you got the 2nd most, 3rd most, and 5th most physically injured teams. But they only, they ranked in the top 10 in terms of in terms of the illness aspects of things. They didn't suffer a lot from the worldwide, pandemic, guys. So, I mean, there's complex issues when you look at the 2020 season. There's no doubt about it. But generally speaking, guys, you can see the trend here. Keep your players healthy. You got a really good likelihood of being successful. Look, Nick Sirianni, this front office staff, they took a heck of a lot of precautions in the preseason to keep guys healthy. There's a lot of arguments we can make here about this iron sharpen iron. You know what I mean? Like steel sharpen steel. What's going to happen here, guys? I mean, not hitting fully, not really going to the ground as much as they used to. Is that kind of stuff going to lead to injuries? We'll have to see, guys, but at least they're going to start off the year healthy, at least. The other thing I'll say, guys, is that I fully believe that if that offensive line and that defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles stays healthy, this is a much better football team than what the national media is saying. The national media doesn't think we're very good, but I'm telling you right now, this offensive line, this defensive line stays healthy, this is a good football team. Am I saying it's Super Bowl caliber? No, guys. I don't think any team you can outright say is until the season wears on, because by week 8 or week 9 of the 2020 NFL season, was anyone saying Tampa Bay was a Super Bowl team? No, they weren't. Tampa Bay was stuck in mediocrity. So, it's hard to tell those things, guys, until later on in the season. With that said, guys, I do fully believe that keeping the offensive line, keeping the defensive line healthy, allows Jalen Hurts to somewhat come across as a rookie quarterback learn, and gives them an adequate chance of actually developing and actually being a guy that could become that franchise quarterback. On the inverse to that, guys, if we start sustaining a ton of injuries on the offensive line and on the defensive line, it's going to automatically really thrust the weight of the season on Jalen Hurts' shoulder. If the Eagles are going to be any good at all, then Jalen Hurts and this wide receiving core in the offense would have to overcome a lot if the offense and defensive line is injured. It's going to immediately add a lot of stress to the situation. It's no doubt about it. We can see that even in last year because it was far more than just our offensive defensive line. Yes, we went through 14 offensive line changes, right? Yes, by the end of the Dallas game, we were down Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox. I mean, we were just decimated on the defensive line by the end of that game, too. We ended up losing, even further players, man. I mean, we basically were out there with Matt Pryor and Brett Toth playing the majority of reps at tackle by the end of the season. We were decimated by injuries. There's just no doubt about it. Got to keep people healthy, guys. To me, it's the biggest key to success in 2021. If the Eagles are going to be successful and surprise people and make a run for the playoffs, it's because this team is relatively healthy. Numbers don't lie on this, guys. The numbers say what the numbers say on it. If you keep your team healthy, if you keep this team away from, this worldwide pandemic, you're probably going to do well on the season. You're probably going to stand a fighting shot at exceeding expectations. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention, guys. Leave your comments down below. I think this is a major key to the season, guys. Let me know your thoughts, though. All right, man. Y'all know I appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.